Inclusion and exclusion criteria. It sounds rigorous. It sounds methodologically mature. And most of the time it means published after 2015, peer-reviewed, English language, empirical only. That's not rigor. That's sorting. And if your criteria could apply to almost any project in your field, they are not doing intellectual work. They are organizing a pile. Criteria are not about being thorough. They are about drawing a boundary around relevance. And a boundary is a claim. I'm Nick, this is Dr. Cranky Pants Teaches, and no, you do not need a Prisma diagram, and no, we are not pretending that this is a systematic review seminar. Stay with me. Let's make this concrete. There are three kinds of criteria people write. The first are surface filters. They include peer-reviewed studies from the last 10 years, exclude dissertations, and include empirical research. And those are fine. They're not wrong. They're also not very interesting. They don't tell me, or you, what your argument needs. Now, the second kind are topical criteria. These include studies about reading and motivation, or exclude studies about writing instruction. These examples are better, because now they're defining scope, but we're still not defining stance. The third kind are argument-driven criteria, and these respond directly to what you noticed in your inventory. If your current set is heavy on outcome studies and thin on explanation, then a meaningful inclusion criterion might be include studies that explicitly theorize or identify causal mechanisms underlying observed outcomes. If your inventory revealed that most of your sources assumed well-resourced suburban districts, then include studies conducted in under-resourced or linguistically diverse settings to test the generalizability of current findings. If your provisional claim feels too comfortable, then include studies reporting contradictory, null, or mixed findings. Notice what's happening here. The criteria are corrective. They respond to distortion. And if you skip that inventory step and jump straight to criteria, you will default to surface filters because you won't know what needs correcting. Now, these are harder to write than they look. Here's a usable frame to start with. So we're going to begin with include studies that, and then force yourself to add because my current literature does something. For example, include studies that explicitly theorize causal mechanisms because my current literature overrepresents outcome-only findings. Or include studies conducted in linguistically diverse secondary classrooms because my current set assumes monolingual elementary context. This because is where the thinking happens, and without it, you're probably writing a filter. Exclusion criteria work the exact same way. Exclude studies that, when they, because they would reinforce. For example, exclude studies that measure motivation solely through self-reported surveys when no triangulated data are provided because they would reinforce a narrow operational definition already dominant in my set. Again, the reasoning matters. Now, once you have drafted a criterion, do not assume it is strong. Run it through a quick check. I like to call this the test check. T, is it tied to your inventory? Can you point to something you already diagnosed that justifies this? E, does it exclude something real? Would this actually eliminate some studies from consideration? S, is it specific? Does it name a methodological, theoretical, contextual, or evidentiary feature? And T, is it teachable? If someone else reads this, would they know exactly what qualifies? If the answer to any of those is no, tighten it. Now, we also have to talk about overcorrection, because some people Once they understand this, they narrow their criteria until nothing qualifies. For example, include only longitudinal, mixed method studies conducted in urban public schools with multilingual adolescents and sample sizes above 200. There are going to be 3 articles that survive that search apocalypse. And that is not precision. That is fear, because good criteria narrow the field. This one's just strangling it. They focus your next search pass. They do not eliminate the conversation. And there is also a difference in accountability, because if you are accountable to a scholarly field, your criteria should clarify which theoretical and methodological traditions you're engaging in. Include studies grounded in sociocultural theory rather than purely cognitive models. That names a conversation. Now, if you're accountable to action in real systems, your criteria should clarify context and feasibility, such as including implementation studies that report constraints, adaptations, and unintended consequences. That names conditions. Different pressure, same responsibility. Criteria aren't clerical, they are commitments, and commitments shape arguments. If this made inclusion and exclusion criteria feel a little less procedural and a little more consequential, that matters. I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next one.